In the quiet heart of a small town in southern Brazil, where the fields stretched wide under a boundless sky, life moved slowly for Otávio and Helena, a couple bound by love and the rhythm of rural life. It was 1981, and Otávio, a 34-year-old farmer with blonde hair and calm blue eyes, spent his days tending to crops and a modest shop in their backyard, while Helena, his wife of 10 years, brought warmth to their home with her gentle smile and unyielding spirit. Theirs was a simple life built on shared dreams and the hope of a family, but that hope had been tested by years of heartache. For nearly a decade they had tried to have children, only to face the crushing weight of 2 miscarriages and a devastating diagnosis from a doctor in the nearby city. Helena's body, they were told, could not sustain a pregnancy beyond 3 months. The words hung heavy, a sentence that seemed to close the door on their deepest wish. Yet against all odds, something extraordinary happened. In the warmth of a late summer evening, Helena felt a flicker of life within her, a quiet promise that defied the doctor's warnings. A pregnancy test confirmed it, and the couple collapsed into each other's arms. Tears streaming down their faces, tears of joy, fear, and a fragile hope they barely dared to hold. They vowed to keep the news secret for the first few months, guarding it like a delicate flame. Helena withdrew from her usual tasks, focusing every ounce of her strength on nurturing the life inside her, while Otávio became her shield, taking on extra work to ensure she could rest. He watched her with a quiet intensity, his calloused hands gentle as he helped her through the days, his heart swelling with both love and dread. As the months passed, the impossible began to take shape. In the 4th month, an ultrasound in a small clinic revealed not 1, but 2 heartbeats, a revelation that left them speechless. By the 5th month, another scan brought even more astonishing news. There were 5. Otávio and Helena clung to each other, their minds reeling at the thought of 5 children, a miracle that seemed to rewrite the rules of their world. But it was in the 6th month, during a trip to a hospital in Porto Alegre, that the full weight of their reality came into focus. The doctor, his face a mix of awe and concern, turned the screen toward them and pointed to 9 tiny forms, each pulsing with life. 9. The word echoed in the room, a number so vast it seemed to belong to a dream. The doctors called it a medical anomaly, a miracle that defied explanation. Helena's body, frail and once deemed incapable, was somehow sustaining 9 lives. She smiled through her exhaustion, her eyes shining with a quiet certainty. Each one of them, she whispered to Otávio, is a piece of us, a reward for all we've endured. Otávio could only knot his throat tight, his mind racing with love and terror. The doctors warned that the pregnancy was high risk, that a cesarean section would be necessary, and that even then the outcome was uncertain. But Helena's resolve was unshakable, and Otávio trusted her strength, even as fear gnawed at him. The town, small and close-knit, began to buzz with whispers of the miracle unfolding at house number 27 on the main street. Neighbors offered prayers, brought food, and shared quiet glances of wonder, but Otávio and Helena kept their focus inward, preparing for a future they could scarcely imagine. As the pregnancy progressed, the hospital in Porto Alegre became their second home. The medical team planned the delivery like a military operation, mobilizing specialists from across the region. The local hospital, with its limited resources, couldn't handle the complexity of the birth, so Helena was transferred to the capital with Otávio by her side. Volunteers from their town rallied to help, raising funds for medical costs and travel their support, a testament to the couple's quiet impact on those around them. The day of the delivery arrived heavy with anticipation. The operating room was a flurry of activity nurses and doctors, moving with precision, their faces taut with focus. Ottavio stood outside, his hands clasped tightly, praying silently as the minutes ticked by. At 10:47 a.m., the first cry pierced the air, a girl tiny and fragile, weighing just over a kilo. A minute later, another cry, then another, each one a heartbeat that filled the room with life. By 10:55 a.m., 9 blonde, blue-eyed girls had entered the world, each one a miracle, their weights ranging from 1 to 1.5 kilos. The operating room, filled with seasoned professionals, dissolved into tears. Nurses wept, doctors wiped their eyes, and even the hospital director, a stoic man, stood speechless. Ottavio was led into the neonatal ward, where 9 incubators hummed softly, each holding a daughter. He stood frozen, staring at the tiny lives before him, his heart swelling with a love so vast it threatened to break him. "This is my family," he whispered over and over, as if to anchor himself in the moment. "They're all my daughters." But even as he marveled at the miracle, a shadow loomed. Toward the end of the surgery, Helena's condition deteriorated. She began losing blood, too much, too fast. The doctors fought for nearly 2 hours, their voices sharp with urgency as they ordered transfusions and tried every measure to stabilize her. Ottavio, unaware, was still in the neonatal ward, holding the hand of his 9th daughter, when a doctor approached, her face pale. "Ottavio, we need to talk," she said softly. He didn't need to hear the words. He felt it, a cold weight settling in his chest. Helena was gone. At 1:12 p.m., she slipped away, her body unable to withstand the toll of the birth. Ottavio was told 3 hours later, and the world seemed to stop. He sank to his knees in the hospital hallway, his breath shallow, his eyes fixed on the floor, as if it might open and swallow the pain. He didn't cry, not then. He just sat silent, waiting for a reality that refused to shift. The news spread through the town like wildfire, halting daily life. Neighbors gathered their voices, hushed, their hearts heavy with grief and awe. The press descended, drawn by the story of a widower with 9 newborn daughters, but Ottavio wanted none of it. He stayed in the hospital, sleeping in chairs near the neonatal ICU, his days a blur of visiting hours, scribbled notes, and whispered prayers. He refused to leave even for Helena's funeral, unable to bear the thought of being apart from his daughters. His older brother carried her coffin, while Ottavio remained by the incubators, watching over the lives she had given everything for. In those early days, he wrote a letter to Helena, slipping it into the box of one of the incubators. "You left me 9 pieces of yourself," he wrote. "I don't know how, but I'll make it work, even if the world doubts me." The girls, each so small, fought to grow stronger. One nearly slipped away at 12 days old, but she held on, a tiny warrior like her sisters. The hospital staff, moved by Ottavio's devotion, became his allies. A nurse named Rosanna volunteered to stay late, helping him navigate the chaos of 9 infants. Donations poured in, bottles, diapers, clothes, money sent from across Brazil as the story of the father of 9 spread. Ottavio accepted the help, but his focus never wavered. He didn't want fame or pity. He wanted only to honor Helena's sacrifice by raising their daughters with love. He named them carefully, each name a thread tying them to their mother. Anna, Lara, Sofia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca. Simple names, sweet, like the wooden dolls he would later carve for them. Their home, once a quiet refuge, became a sanctuary of new life, its walls soon adorned with their names and a framed photo of Helena, surrounded by dried flowers she had loved. The town, once a forgotten dot on the map, began to pulse with the story of this family, a beacon of resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. Ottavio, though broken by grief, stood firm, ready to face the impossible task ahead, driven by a promise to the woman who had given him everything. The world watched, but for Ottavio, it was just the beginning of a journey that would define his life and the lives of his 9 daughters. Ottavio stood in the backyard of his small home, the morning sun casting long shadows across the rows of crops he had tended for years. The air was thick with the scent of earth and dew, but the familiar rhythm of farm life felt different, now heavier. His 9 daughters, Anna, Lara, Sofia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca, were still in the hospital, their tiny forms nestled in incubators, fighting to grow stronger. It had been weeks since Helena's passing, and the weight of her absence pressed against Ottavio's chest like a stone. Yet, in the quiet moments before dawn, he found clarity. He had made a promise to her, and he would keep it. The girls were his purpose now, and he would build a life for them, no matter the cost. The town, still reeling from the miracle of the 9 births and the tragedy that followed, rallied around him. Neighbors brought meals, local women offered to clean the house, and men from the church helped repair the sagging roof of the shop in the backyard. Ottavio was grateful, but he knew he couldn't rely on kindness forever. He needed a plan, a way to provide for his daughters and give them a future. The land behind the house, a small plot he had worked since he was a boy, was his starting point. With a heavy heart, he made a decision: he would sell it. The money would fund a new venture, one that honored Helena and sustained his family. He had always noticed how Helena loved flowers, how she would weave daisies into her hair or press wild blooms between the pages of her books. Inspired by her, Ottavio used the proceeds from the land to build a greenhouse, a modest structure of wood and glass that gleamed in the sunlight. He began growing flowers, roses, orchids, tulips, each variety named after one of his daughters: Anna's, roses; Sophia's, orchids; Julia's, tulips. It was his way of keeping Helena's spirit alive, of weaving her love into the fabric of their lives. The greenhouse became more than a business. It was a lifeline. Orders came slowly at first, but word spread. And soon, Ottavio was delivering bouquets to neighboring towns, each arrangement a small tribute to his girls and their mother. The work was grueling, but it gave him purpose, a rhythm to anchor the chaos of his new reality. At home, the girls came back from the hospital one by one, their tiny cries filling the house with life. Ottavio transformed the small space into a sanctuary for them. He built cribs with his own hands, painting each one a different color to tell them apart. He hung a photo of Helena on the wall, her gentle smile watching over the room, surrounded by dried flowers from their garden. The girls' names, Anna, Lara, Sofia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca, were painted in careful script above their cribs, a reminder of their individuality and their shared bond. Ottavio devised a system to manage the overwhelming task of caring for 9 infants. He numbered bottles, color-coded blankets, and kept meticulous, handwritten schedules pinned to the kitchen wall. Feedings were timed like clockwork, diapers changed in rotation, and naps marked with colored tape on each crib. He barely slept, his nights a blur of rocking one daughter, then another, humming lullabies Helena used to sing. The daughter who cried the most got a star on a board in the living room. The one who slept best earned a heart. It was his way of connecting with them, of finding joy in the exhaustion. The community watched in awe, calling him the father of the 9 girls, a title that both honored and overshadowed him. Ottavio didn't care for the label. He just wanted to be their father. But the world outside their home wasn't always kind. Whispers followed him, gossip about how a single man could possibly raise 9 girls, doubts about his ability to cope. The worst came when a social worker visited her clipboard, heavy with judgment. She spoke of foster care, of splitting the girls up for better opportunities. Ottavio's blood ran cold. "They are my daughters," he said, his voice steady but fierce. "I made a promise to their mother. No one will take them." The threat sparked a fire in the town. Neighbors rallied, lawyers offered their services for free, and a petition with thousands of signatures flooded the children's court. Ottavio fought for months, his days split between the greenhouse and legal meetings, his nights spent by the cribs, whispering to his girls that they would stay together. In the end, he won. The girls remained his, and the victory cemented his resolve. He would never again let anyone question his ability to care for them. As the girls grew, their personalities began to shine. Anna was serious, always watching over her sisters like a little guardian. Lara was bold, her laughter filling the house. Sophia, quiet and observant, seemed to carry her mother's gentle spirit. Clara loved to draw her crayons, leaving trails of color on every surface. Elisa was quick to help, even at 3, tugging at Ottavio's sleeve when a sister needed comfort. Julia was stubborn, her tiny fists clenched in determination. Helena, named for her mother, had a gaze that made Ottavio's heart ache. Luisa was sensitive, crying over small hurts, while Bianca's giggles could light up a room. Ottavio marveled at them, each so different, yet bound by an invisible thread. He taught them to walk, to speak, to share, weaving lessons of love and resilience into their days. He sewed their clothes, patched their shoes, and told them stories of their mother, how she loved the stars, how she danced in the kitchen, how she dreamed of them before they were born. The greenhouse flourished, its blooms a symbol of the family's growth. Ottavio's bouquets became sought after, not just for their beauty, but for the story they carried. Customers would ask about the girls, and Ottavio would share small pieces of their lives, never seeking pity, only pride. He expanded the business, hiring a neighbor to help with deliveries so he could spend more time at home. The house, though small, was alive with chaos and love. Ottavio built a nursery in the backyard, a space where the girls could play while he worked nearby. He carved wooden dolls for their first birthdays, each one etched with their initials, a gift that would become a cherished tradition. The town, once just a quiet stop on the road, became known for the family at house number 27. People came from afar to see the greenhouse, to buy a bouquet, to catch a glimpse of the 9 blonde girls who ran through the fields, their laughter a melody that carried on the wind. But not all days were bright. There were moments when Ottavio felt the weight of his promise to Helena, moments when he doubted himself. Late at night, when the house was quiet, he would sit by the girls' beds, watching them sleep, his mind racing with fears of failing them. He hid his tears, carrying his grief in silence, determined to be the father they deserved. The community remained a lifeline. Neighbors took shifts to help with baths or meals, and a local teacher offered to tutor the girls as they approached school age. Ottavio organized a system assigning each family on the street a day to lend a hand. Some brought soup, others read stories, and a few simply sat with Ottavio, offering companionship in the quiet hours. It was a collective effort, a testament to the town's belief in this family. The girls, now toddlers, began to understand their place in the world. They would point to their mother's photo, asking questions. Ottavio answered with care. "She's watching us," he would say, pointing to the stars. "She's in every flower, every laugh, every one of you." They didn't fully grasp it, but they felt the love in his words. As the years passed, Ottavio's life became a delicate balance of work and fatherhood. The greenhouse gave them stability, but it was his presence, steady, unwavering, that gave the girls a foundation. He taught them to plant seeds, to care for the earth, to value the small things. He showed them how to be strong, not by hiding pain, but by facing it with courage. The house, once a place of grief, became a home of hope, its walls echoing with the sounds of 9 lives growing together. Ottavio knew the road ahead would be long, but he was ready. He had promised Helena, and he would keep that promise one day. 1 flower, 1 daughter at a time. The sun rose over the small town in southern Brazil, casting a golden glow on the greenhouse, where Ottavio's flowers bloomed in vibrant rows, each one bearing the name of one of his 9 daughters: Anna, Lara, Sophia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca. The girls were no longer the tiny infants who had filled his home with cries and chaos. They were now vibrant teenagers, their laughter and arguments echoing through the house at number 27 on the main street. At 13 and 14, they were stepping into adolescence, a storm of emotions and discoveries that tested Ottavio's steady hand. He had spent years as their anchor, managing their needs with military precision, but now the challenge was different. His daughters were finding their own voices, their own paths, and Ottavio had to learn a new kind of fatherhood, one that required less control and more listening, less action, and more presence. The house, once a tightly run ship, was now a whirlwind of individuality. Anna, the eldest, was serious and protective, always stepping in to mediate her sister's squabbles. Lara, bold and outspoken, filled the rooms with her chatter, her dreams of becoming a journalist, already taking shape. Sophia, quiet and introspective, spent hours sketching in a notebook, her drawings reflecting a depth that reminded Ottavio of Helena. Clara's creativity spilled onto every surface, her walls covered in murals of flowers and stars. Elisa, ever the helper, was the first to volunteer when a sister needed a bandage or a kind word. Julia, stubborn and fierce, challenged Ottavio's rules, her courage, both a pride and a worry. Helena, named for her mother, carried a gaze that could unravel him, her quiet strength, a mirror of the woman they had lost. Luisa's sensitivity made her cry over small injustices, while Bianca's laughter remained a light in even the darkest moments. Ottavio watched them grow, marveling at how they were both so alike and so distinct, bound by their shared history, yet pulling toward their own futures. The town, however, was less kind to their differences. As the girls blossomed into striking teenagers, blonde, blue-eyed, with an undeniable charisma, they drew attention wherever they went. Whispers followed them in the market, at church, and school. "How does he manage alone?" people murmured. 9 girls, no mother. What will become of them? The gossip stung, but Ottavio taught his daughters to hold their heads high. "You are enough," he told them, his voice firm. "You carry your mother's strength." But the words couldn't shield them from everything. One afternoon, Anna came home from school, her eyes red, her voice trembling. A classmate had taunted her, saying their mother had chosen to die rather than raise them. Ottavio pulled her close, his heart breaking. "Your mother gave everything for you," he said. "That's the greatest love there is." That night, he gathered all 9 girls in the living room and opened a small wooden box he had kept since their birth. Inside was a ribbon from Helena's hair, one of her earrings, a dried flower, and the letter he had written to her in the hospital. He read it aloud, his voice steady, despite the tears. "Helena, you left me 9 pieces of yourself. I'll make it work, even if the whole world doubts it." The girls listened, some crying, others silent, and for the first time they understood the depth of their father's promise. The moment bound them closer, a reminder of the love that held them together. As adolescence unfolded, the house felt both too small and too vast. The girls began to test boundaries. Lara wanted to cut her hair short. Julia refused to wear dresses. Sophia's drawings grew darker, and Clara locked her thoughts in a diary. Ottavio didn't fight their changes. He listened, asking questions, offering quiet guidance. He knew they were searching for who they were, and he wanted them to find it without losing each other. School posed another challenge. The teachers suggested splitting the girls into different classes, arguing it would help them develop individually. Ottavio refused. "They're stronger together," he insisted, and the teachers, seeing the bond between them, relented. The girls studied in the same classroom, their desks a row of blonde heads, their laughter a shared language. Yet Ottavio knew they couldn't stay children forever. When they turned 16, he made a bold decision. The greenhouse, which had sustained them for years, was sold. With the money, he bought an old school bus and spent months transforming it into a home on wheels, complete with bunk beds, a tiny kitchen, and a shelf for their books and drawings. One last adventure, he told them, his eyes bright with purpose. "Before you go your own ways, let's see the world together." For 3 months, they traveled across Brazil, from the beaches of the coast to the mountains of the interior, sleeping in campsites, cooking over campfires, and laughing under the stars. They saw the sea for the first time, felt snow on their faces, and wandered through dusty back roads. They fought, they sang, they wrote letters to each other, capturing memories in photos and journals. It was a time of joy and discovery, but also a quiet farewell to their childhood. On the last night around a campfire in an open field, Ottavio looked at his daughters and spoke from his heart. "I know I wasn't perfect," he said, his voice soft against the crackling flames. "I made mistakes, but I'd do it all again. You are my life." They didn't reply. They just leaned into him, their heads resting on his shoulders, the crickets singing around them. The trip changed them, but nothing prepared Ottavio for what came next. When they returned home, Bianca, now 16, approached him one evening, her hands trembling as she held an envelope. "Dad, I need to know something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She had taken a DNA test in secret, driven by a nagging feeling that she didn't quite fit with her sisters. Her blonde hair and blue eyes matched theirs, but something, her smile, her mannerisms, felt different. The results confirmed her fears. She wasn't their biological sister. Ottavio's face went pale, but he didn't hesitate. He took her hands and told her the truth he had carried for years. On the night of their birth, one of the 9 girls had been stillborn. The hospital, unable to bear breaking more devastating news to Ottavio, had replaced her with an abandoned newborn left at their doors hours earlier. "You are my daughter, Bianca," he said, his voice breaking. "I held you the same, loved you the same, chose you every day." The confession shook the family. The sisters gathered in the kitchen stared in shock, but one by one, they surrounded Bianca, hugging her tightly. "You're our sister," Anna said firmly. "Always have been." The moment, though painful, strengthened their bond, proving that love was deeper than blood. As the girls turned 18, the house began to empty. Anna left for Sao Paulo to study medicine, her determination a quiet fire. Lara headed to Florianopolis, chasing her dream of journalism. Julia, fierce and bold, enlisted in the army. Elisa went on an exchange program, her heart open to the world. Sophia turned her sketches into art. Clara started a video channel to share stories, Helena pursued psychology. Luisa became a missionary, and Bianca stayed unwilling to leave Ottavio's side. The house grew quiet, the cribs replaced by empty beds, the walls still bearing their names, and Helena's photo. Ottavio felt the ache of their absence, but he was proud. He had raised them to fly just as he had promised. Yet as he walked through the greenhouse now tended by a neighbor, he felt a pang of loneliness. The girls called often visited when they could, but the house felt different without their chaos. One evening, as he sat with Bianca, she took his hand and said, "Dad will always come back." He smiled, but deep down he wondered what lay ahead. The girls were building their lives, but their bond to him, to each other, to their mother's memory, remained unbreakable. Ottavio knew the journey wasn't over, that life still held surprises, and he braced himself for whatever came next, his heart full of the love that had carried them this far. The house at number 27 on the main street, once a whirlwind of 9 little girls and their father's unwavering love, had grown quieter over the years. Ottavio, now nearing 70, moved slower, his blonde hair streaked with silver, his blue eyes carrying the weight of decades. His daughters, Anna, Lara, Sofia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca, had spread their wings, chasing dreams across Brazil and beyond. Yet the bond that held them together, forged in the crucible of loss and love, never wavered. The greenhouse, long since sold, had left behind a legacy of flowers named for each girl, and the town still spoke of the father of the 9 girls with a mix of awe and reverence. Ottavio lived alone now, tending a small garden, the photo of Helena still framed on the wall, surrounded by dried flowers that whispered of her presence. But life, as always, had one last chapter to write, one that would weave together the past and present, revealing truths that would redefine their story and leave a lesson for all who heard it. It began with a scare. One quiet morning, Ottavio collapsed in the kitchen, his heart faltering under the weight of years spent carrying his family alone. A neighbor, Mrs. Teresa, noticed the lights on too long and found him calling for help just in time. At the hospital, the doctors revived him, but the incident shook his daughters to their core. Anna, now a doctor in Sao Paulo, rushed home, her medical bag in hand, her face pale with worry. Lara, the journalist, called from Florianopolis, her voice breaking over the phone. Sofia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca converged on the hospital, their lives pausing as they faced the fragility of the man who had been their rock. Ottavio, weak but stubborn, waved off their concern. "I'm fine," he insisted, his voice hoarse. "Go live your lives." But the girls saw the truth in his tired eyes. He didn't want to be a burden, but he also didn't want to be alone. After heated discussions, tears, and late-night talks, the sisters made a decision that surprised even themselves. They would sell the childhood home, the one filled with memories of cribs, colored tape, and their mother's photo, and buy a new house where they could all live together with Ottavio, at least for a time. It was a return to their roots, a chance to rebuild the family under one roof. Each sister bringing her own story. Anna's medical practice, Laura's articles, Sofia's art, Clara's videos, Elisa's travels, Julia's military discipline, Helena's psychological insights, Luisa's missionary work, and Bianca's quiet loyalty. The new house, larger and modern, became a haven of laughter and chaos, a place where the sisters cooked together, argued over old habits, and sat with Ottavio in the evenings listening to his stories of their childhood. The walls were soon adorned with new photos, but Helena's portrait remained the centerpiece, her smile a silent guide. One afternoon, while sorting through boxes from the old house, Sophia stumbled upon a discovery that would change everything. Tucked in a dusty corner of the attic, hidden behind a stack of old books, was a small sealed envelope yellowed with age, addressed to Ottavio in Helena's delicate handwriting. Sophia's hands trembled as she called her sisters together. They gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation, as Ottavio opened the letter. His face shifted from curiosity to disbelief, then to tears as he read words written by his wife weeks before the birth of their daughters. Helena had known she might not survive the pregnancy. She wrote of dreams that haunted her, of a quiet certainty that her body couldn't withstand the weight of 9 lives. "If anything happens to me," she wrote, "know that it was my choice. The doctors warned me, but I chose our daughters. I chose to give them life, even if it costs mine. Love them for me, Ottavio, as fiercely as I do." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking into their hearts. Ottavio clutched the letter to his chest, his shoulders shaking, and whispered, "I never knew. I thought it was a mistake. But she chose you." The sisters, now in their late 30s and early 40s, knelt around him, their hands intertwined, their tears a shared language. Anna the doctor spoke first, her voice steady despite her tears. "She was a hero, Dad. She chose us." The moment was a reckoning, a bridge between the pain of their past and the love that had always held them together. As if guided by fate, another miracle unfolded. One by one, the sisters discovered they were pregnant, all within months of each other. The news spread through the family like wildfire, a joyous echo of the miracle that had brought them into the world. Anna, Lara, Sophia, Clara, Elisa, Julia, Helena, Luisa, and Bianca gathered in the new house, their laughter mingling with nervous excitement, as they shared stories of morning sickness, cravings, and the strange synchronicity of their pregnancies. Ottavio watched, his heart swelling, seeing in their glowing faces the same hope he and Helena had felt decades ago. The town buzzed with the news, marveling at the idea of 9 sisters bringing new life into the world together. It was as if Helena's spirit was weaving a new thread into their story, a legacy of love reborn. The sisters decided to honor their mother in the most profound way. Each child, boy or girl, would carry her name, Helena, as part of their own. It was a tribute to the woman who had given everything away to keep her alive in the next generation. The births came one after another, a cascade of life that filled the house with cries and laughter. 6 girls and 3 boys, all blonde, some with their mother's blue eyes, others with lighter honey hues, arrived healthy and strong. The sisters became a rotating team of aunts and godmothers, caring for each other's children, sharing late-night feedings and swapping advice. Ottavio, now a grandfather, found new purpose in the chaos. He sat in a hammock in the backyard, cradling each grandchild, singing the same lullabies he had once sung to his daughters. The house was alive again, its rooms filled with bottles, toys, and the scent of baby powder. Ottavio didn't complain. He smiled, his heart full, knowing this was the life Helena had dreamed of for them. But life, ever unpredictable, had one final revelation. While cleaning the attic of the new house, Anna found another locked box, its wood worn but sturdy. Inside was a second letter from Helena, this one addressed to the family. Her words, written in the same delicate hand, told a story no one had known. Before the pregnancy with the 9 girls, Helena had suffered an early miscarriage, a boy, a loss that had broken her heart. But what followed was even more astonishing. During that time, she had made an impossible choice to donate part of her organs to save a woman in a coma, someone close to the family. She didn't name the woman, only wrote that she hoped the truth would one day bring peace. Ottavio, reading the letter, felt the weight of Helena's love, a love that reached beyond their family. The sisters, led by Anna, decided to uncover the truth. After months of searching, they found her a distant aunt of Ottavio's long-thought lost, who had survived because of Helena's sacrifice. The discovery brought the family closer, a reminder that their mother's legacy was not just in them, but in the lives she had touched. As Ottavio held his grandchildren, his heart full, he reflected on the journey. The lesson was clear. True love demands silent sacrifices, choices made without fanfare, courage, shown in the quiet moments. Helena had given her life for her daughters, and Ottavio had carried that love forward, raising them with dignity and strength. The sisters, now mothers themselves, understood the depth of those choices, and they vowed to pass that love to their children. This story, their story, is a call to all who hear it. Cherish the invisible acts of love around you, the sacrifices that shape lives, the courage that builds families. Share this tale not for fame, but to inspire. Reflect on the quiet heroes in your own life, and let their strength guide you to be better, to love deeper, to live with purpose.